Welcome to The Author Show, where we present new authors and books. From fiction to self-help and everything in between, you'll find it all here. To watch the TV version of our program, visit authorswebtv.com. That's authorswebtv.com. And now, let the show begin.
Hi, this is Linda Thompson, your host for The Author Show. No one can tell a crime story like a retired police officer, and today's featured book, Lincoln 9, was written by one. Author David Freedland spent 34 years in law enforcement in Southern California, and this is not a guy to mess with because he also holds a 6th-degree black belt in karate. Lincoln 9 is the story of murder in America's safest city, and I can't wait to learn more. Dave, welcome to The Author Show.
Thank you, Linda. Good talking with you.
Dave, please share with us a short synopsis of Lincoln 9.
Lincoln 9 begins with a beautiful blonde secretary, and she fails to show to Sunday brunch her father, and his concern is justified by sending officers to her place of residence, which is America's safest city, Irvine, California. And they discover a gruesome homicide scene, which establishes her as the first in a series of murders that would ultimately span 2 decades. The book takes place in a city whose reputation, Irvine, is known for safety and affluence, and that tends to overshadow the fact that the relatively few homicides, which is about 4 to 5 per year, are really some of the most vicious and complex cases that I've ever seen in my experience. It's a story of 3 such cases, actual homicides that I took, and then I combined them into a fictional plot with characters, but based upon actual crimes. And basically the story follows these officers in bringing justice to the perpetrators. The story follows the career of Lieutenant Scott Hunter. He's basically the consummate cop who ultimately leads a team of detectives in connecting the clues towards solving these murders. His talents not only instill confidence in the members of his elite unit, but they draw the attention of an attractive coworker who's matched in interest and intellect. And essentially you have a gruesome homicide thriller with romance.
That's a mouthful. So what type of reader do you feel would most enjoy diving into Lincoln 9?
I think adults who enjoy crime thrillers. I say adults because it is very graphic.
Are your characters based on people you know or strictly from your imagination? And most of all, are you Scott Hunter?
The characters are composites of people who I have worked with, but there's no one character that is characterized by a single person. And I have had readers ask me if I'm Scott Hunter, and no, I've given Scott Hunter my experiences as well as experiences of other officers, but I've also sent subliminal message to people who know me that I'm not Scott Hunter, because I graduated from UCLA, and I had Hunter graduate from USC. That's on his resume. And anybody that knows those 2 schools know that the rivalry is very strong and never the twain shall meet.
So what is the meaning of your title, Lincoln 9?
It's based upon the phonetic alphabet that officers use, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, ABC, and L stands for the letter L for lieutenant, and phonetically that's Lincoln. And 9 is the number for the seniority for the person holding that position. So the main character gets promoted to lieutenant, and he's 9th in seniority in that rank, so he is Lincoln 9.
This is your first novel. Is there another author you feel may have influenced your writing style?
Well, I would say that the first author that really piqued my interest was, surprisingly, Charles Dickens. When I was in high school, my English teacher, he was the baseball coach, but he was and he had us read Tale of Two Cities. And just the style of that story had great characters and a surprise ending. And so that was a pretty strong influence at the beginning. And then as I started reading other books, I would say that Tom Clancy and maybe Vince Flynn would be other influences.
Most writers write because they have a message they want to share. What would you say your message is in Lincoln 9?
Well, I think that probably the most important thing is that the success of homicide investigations can be attributed to a number of things, those being conscientious investigative skills, strong leadership, public observation and assistance, and some good luck. I would say that as a sub-theme would be that leaders are not born, they're developed. and they're developed through challenges that they face. And through my experience in special weapons and tactics, SWAT, we found that good SWAT teams build good leaders who can act decisively.
Will Scott Hunter be back in a series or a sequel?
I think you'll see him pretty soon. I've outlined the follow-up to this book, and some of the characters in Lincoln 9 in the next book. It'll be based on 2 cities, Irvine and one other in the Southern California area, and will also involve a remote landmark in the city of Irvine that is associated with several homicides and felonies.
We have listeners from all over the world, and while our listeners in the U.S. are familiar with the acronym SWAT, will you please explain to other countries what SWAT actually stands for and means?
SWAT stands for Special Weapons and Tactics Teams, and really came on the national and then international scene in 1974 when LAPD, the Los Angeles Police Department, responded to the Symbionese Liberation Army's kidnapping of newspaper heiress Patricia Hearst. And the SLA, or Symbionese Liberation Army, had holed up in a ramshackle house in south central Los Angeles, and there was quite a gun battle protracted over some time, and that was the first time we saw a SWAT team in action in which police officers were dressed up in military-style gear and essentially assumed a role of defending the community from the most violent of criminals. And it's evolved over time and professionalized much more in recent times, and has organizations that establish best practices for these teams to resolve missions involving barricaded suspects and hostage incidents.
Writing novels is a whole lot safer than leading a SWAT team, but I've just got to ask, do you really miss it?
That's probably the part that I miss the most. When I was in law enforcement, I rose through the ranks from sergeant to lieutenant to commander and then ultimately deputy chief of police. But it was SWAT that was the most interesting and the most dynamic, the most fun for me. And I miss the people involved in it. You're dealing with people that are the top in their field in terms of emotional stability, intellect, and above all else, physical capabilities. And I still go to our annual SWAT banquet and exchange greetings with some of my old friends that were on the team, and they're still on the team. And it's just a part of my life that I'm glad that I was a participant in.
If you could compare Lincoln 9 with any other, what would that other book be?
I think as far as feel, it would probably be Silence of the Lambs. They have similar points of view. You've got multiple points of view. You had Dr. Lecter, you had Agent Starling, and then you have the killer. There are similar points of view, different plot lines, but it gives you that kind of suspense where you're in a scene and then all of a sudden it flips and you're not where you thought you were. And so I would say that's probably kind of close to the sense or the feel that you get. It's a page-turner.
Where can we learn more about you, and where can we purchase Lincoln 9?
I have a website. It's www.davefreedland.com. The last name is spelled Freedland. Some people forget that middle D. And you can purchase it through the link there that will take you to Amazon, but you can go directly to Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and Oak Tree Press in order to order the book. The website has some background, some of my background. It has a blog, and just some interesting things as it pertains to law enforcement.
Dave, thank you so much for sharing Lincoln 9 with us today. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure our audience is as intrigued with Lincoln 9 as I am. When you publish your next book, will you come back and talk with us again?
Yeah, I'd sure like to. That sounds great.
I love it when I find a book I don't want to put down. Lincoln 9 was fast-paced, authentic look at the workings of the Irvine Police Department and the officers who worked to solve a series of related murders. Written by a cop who was also a member of SWAT, provided us a rare insider's glimpse. Great attention to detail, character development, and story flow. Boy, is there a better way to end today's show than this really good review? I think not. This is Linda Thompson, concluding another edition of The Author Show. Please share this interview with your family and friends so that they too may have the opportunity to discover our guest and his work. And why not spread the word on social media as well? Please join us next time for another exciting author and another great book on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. To contact us, call toll-free 1-877-955-8800. That's 877-55-8800. Or visit theauthorshow.com. Theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.